When the ship's metal hull screamed for the third night in a row, we knew it wasn't the wind or waves. It was claws as long as the deck itself, tearing, relentless. We'd fired every gun we had, but the beast below wouldn't let us leave those cursed waters alive. It was August 1942. Our troops had captured a Japanese airfield in Guadalcanal. The airfield was of strategic importance to the Allied naval forces, primarily the United States and the Imperial Japanese Navy. And the Japanese wanted it back. November 10th, 1942. An order came in. We were to provide backup for our ships already stationed at the islands. Our battleship was a fortress of steel and firepower, ready for whatever the war demanded of us. We'd been waiting, engines rumbling low, as we held position in the open sea before heading toward Guadalcanal, Solomon Islands. Days at sea always tested a sailor's patience. We were battle-hardened, but nothing prepared us for what was coming. It started the first night. The ocean stretched around us, eerily calm beneath the moon. Men were scattered on deck, some smoking, others trading stories. I leaned against the railing, trying to remember the smell of land. The sea always played tricks on you. This time it was worse. The first jolt hit like a sledgehammer. The whole ship quaked, and men stumbled, clutching anything they could find. My heart leapt to my throat. An enemy attack? We scrambled to our battle stations. Alarms blared. Floodlights swept over black waves. But there was nothing. "Captain!" Lieutenant Harris yelled from the bridge, his face pale but set. No sign of enemy ships. No torpedoes detected. The captain's jaw clenched. Then what the hell was that? Before anyone could answer, another jolt, this one harder. A deep groan echoed up through the metal beneath our boots. We stared into the water, breaths caught in our chests. Then we saw it, a shadow, massive and shifting. The ocean itself seemed to ripple around it. "Enemy sub?" One of the gunners whispered. I shook my head. Too big. The thing breached, and all hell broke loose. A tentacle, thicker than any gun turret, and glistening with seawater, surged from the depths. It slammed down near the bow, the impact rattling every rivet. Men shouted, fear breaking through discipline. The captain barked orders. Fire. All guns. The deck guns roared to life. Our 16-inch cannons, weapons designed to shred steel, belched flame and fury. Shells exploded against the beast's writhing body, spraying black ichor into the air. For a moment, I dared to hope. The creature reeled, tentacles thrashing, sending geysers skyward. But it wasn't retreating. It was angry. Concentrate fire, the captain yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos. Drive it off. The air shook with every shot. The men around me worked like demons, reloading, aiming, and firing again. The smell of cordite mixed with salt and fear. One of the gunners, a young kid barely out of training, glanced at me. Think it's gonna go down? Keep firing, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. It's not done yet. Hours passed like minutes. The thing would disappear beneath the waves, only to strike again, its tentacles wrapping around the ship's stern, dragging us backward. We countered with everything we had, depth charges, secondary guns, even flares to disorient it. The sea lit up like a battlefield, but the creature wouldn't let go. When dawn broke, it finally released its grip, slipping beneath the surface. The water was stained with black sludge, a sickly testament to our struggle. Men slumped against bulkheads, exhausted but alive. We'd fought, and somehow, we'd survived the night. As the sun rose, the captain stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the horizon. We're not out of this yet, he said, grim determination in every word. It'll be back. I swallowed hard, staring into the waves that had swallowed so many of our shells. Deep down, I knew he was right. Whatever had come for us wasn't finished, and we would have to be ready. The sea was restless that second day. Waves rolled like something beneath was stirring them from the deep. Every man on board felt it, a tension that stretched with the endless gray of the sky. We kept to our stations, eyes red from exhaustion, but alert. We knew it wasn't over, not by a long shot. Keep scanning the water, Captain Briggs ordered from the bridge, his voice raw from hours of shouting. If you see so much as a ripple, call it out. I was stationed by one of the secondary turrets, sweat stinging my eyes despite the cool wind. Beside me, Petty Officer Michaels tightened his grip on the rangefinder, his knuckles bone white. "Think it'll show its ugly head again?" he asked, forcing a chuckle that didn't reach his eyes. "It never left," I replied, my gaze fixed on the horizon. Just biding its time. The hours dragged. Men worked to patch damaged sections of the hull, and the rest of us checked and rechecked our guns. The memory of that monstrous tentacle-crushing steel replayed in my mind. I forced it down, focusing on the cold metal of my station. We had survived one night. We could survive another. Just after noon it came. The sea swelled, a wave building unnaturally fast, and then it struck. Two tentacles, rising from the depths, crashed down on either side of the battleship. The impact was like a quake, knocking men off their feet. I scrambled up, my hands shaking as I shouted, "Target port side! Fire!" The main guns roared again. Massive shells tore through the air, slamming into the writhing mass. Black ichor erupted, spraying over the deck and making the metal slick and dangerous. The creature bellowed, a sound that seemed to come from the depths of the ocean itself. It tightened its grip, straining the ship's frame. The metal groaned, a sickening sound that sent chills down every spine. "Keep firing," Captain Briggs shouted, bracing himself on the bridge railing. "Hit it with everything we've got." The secondary turrets opened up, spewing fire and shrapnel. Depth charges were launched, exploding beneath the waves in a chorus of thunder. For a moment, one tentacle slackened, sliding back into the water. A cheer went up, short-lived. Another limb shot up from the starboard side, slamming against the superstructure, crushing one of the smaller gun turrets like it was made of tin. Smoke filled the air, thick and choking. Come on," Michaels muttered, loading another shell. I caught his eye and nodded. We had to hold out, no matter what. "Starboard cannons. Aim for the base of that limb," the captain yelled. "Concentrate fire." The guns pivoted, and every shot found its mark. Explosions ripped through scales and flesh, chunks falling away. The creature's grip loosened. For a split second, hope flickered, but then it dove again, dragging us forward, deeper into unknown waters. The ship tilted dangerously, water rushing over the deck. "Get those pumps going," someone shouted. "We're taking on water." I gritted my teeth, fighting the urge to panic. Around me, men moved with desperate purpose, their faces pale but determined. We would not go quietly. As the beast pulled us further from any hope of aid, we rained fire upon it, driving it back again and again. Every man knew the odds, but not a single shot was spared. We fought like hell. Night fell, and the attack slowed. We were battered, weary but alive. The sea was eerily still again, as if mocking our struggle. Captain Briggs called a meeting of senior officers on the bridge. "We've wounded it," he said, voice heavy with exhaustion. "But it'll be back. It's testing us." I stood just outside, listening. Michaels joined me, his face a mask of fear and determination. "How long do you think we can keep this up?" he asked. I looked at the horizon, where the last traces of light faded into darkness. "As long as we have to," I said. "Until there's nothing left." He nodded, eyes hardening. "Then let's make sure it regrets coming back." We both knew the truth. This fight was far from over, and the sea wasn't done with us yet. We were men against a nightmare, but we would stand our ground, no matter what it cost. By the third day, exhaustion was etched into every face on board. The once proud battleship was a battered hulk of twisted metal and scars, but we still had power in our guns and fire in our hearts. The sea had become a graveyard of shells and debris, stained black with the creature's blood, if you could call it that. But we knew it wasn't enough. Not yet. The morning was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of stillness that makes your skin crawl, knowing something terrible is about to happen. Captain Briggs stood on the bridge, eyes scanning the water with a mix of defiance and dread. "Be ready," he said. "It won't give us another moment of peace." As if on cue, the ocean erupted. A wave the size of a building surged toward us, pushed by the beast's rising bulk. Men shouted, scrambling to hold their footing as water crashed over the deck. From the depths, a massive tentacle shot up, striking the main deck. The impact splintered steel like it was driftwood. "Fire everything!" Briggs roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. The main batteries roared to life, hurling shells the size of cars at the writhing mass. The concussive force shook the air, but the creature pressed on. It wrapped one of its limbs around the stern, pulling us down, inch by agonizing inch. We were sinking, slowly but undeniably. "Depth charges," yelled Lieutenant Harris, his voice raw. "Deploy depth charges." Explosions rippled beneath the waves, sending plumes of water skyward. For a moment, the grip loosened, and the ship righted itself. But only for a moment. Another tentacle rose, thicker and longer than before, and slammed down on one of the secondary gun turrets, crushing it instantly. The shockwave threw men off their feet. I pulled myself up, hands bleeding from gripping jagged metal. Beside me, Petty Officer Michaels was already at the controls, aiming another volley. His face was a mask of blood and sweat, but his eyes burned with fury. "Come on, you bastard," he yelled as he pulled the trigger. The cannon fired, hitting the base of the creature's limb. It shrieked, a sound that rattled our bones. The captain's voice came over the speakers. "All remaining guns, focus fire on the central mass. We have to cripple it." Shells rained down, each impact sending ripples through the monstrous form. The air was thick with smoke, the deck slick with oil and seawater. Men worked like madmen, loading, firing, and reloading again. Some fell, crushed by debris or caught by splintering metal. But no one stopped, not until every last round was spent. "We're out," Michael shouted, his hands trembling. "We're out of shells." The realization sank in like cold lead. The beast knew it too. It reared up, towering over the battered ship, its tentacles coiling like snakes ready to strike. Captain Briggs stood on the bridge, his face pale but unbroken. "Prepare for ramming speed," he said, voice steady. "We're not going down without a fight." The engines roared to life, pushing us forward. It was a desperate, hopeless charge. The creature struck again, its limbs crushing through the hull, splitting metal like paper. The ship groaned, tilting sharply. Men clung to anything they could. I lost my grip, falling toward the churning sea below. Cold water swallowed me whole. The screams of metal and men became a muffled roar. I surfaced, gasping, just in time to see the battleship drag beneath the waves, a last barrage of bubbles and debris marking its grave. The sea stretched endlessly around me as I drifted on a splintered piece of debris, my hands raw and my body burning under the relentless sun. Nights brought freezing cold, and only the haunting echoes of screams. 7 days passed, each moment a battle against hunger, thirst, and the waves that seemed eager to drag me under. I woke in terror from dreams of tentacles pulling our ship down, and screamed at the empty sky. On the 7th day, I was ready to sink when I heard the thrum of engines. A ship appeared on the horizon. I weakly raised a hand and croaked, "I'm here." They pulled me aboard, offered water, and asked what had happened. "It came from the deep," I said, my voice trembling. "A Kraken dragged us down." Faces around me turned skeptical, but Captain Everett listened, torn between disbelief and a flicker of fear. "Whatever you saw," he warned later, "it's best left forgotten." I nodded, but I knew I couldn't forget. I owed it to the men who went down fighting, to the ship that stood against a nightmare. I still wake in the night, hearing the echo of that groaning metal, the crash of tentacles, and the courage of men who refused to surrender to the darkness. The sea took everything, but it couldn't take the truth. I carry that alone, a memory etched deep, a story I wish no one else would ever have to tell.